And welcome everybody back to Talkin Design with Matt and
Caity.
this is week two, our second episode of Talkin Design. And today we have our first guest with us, who we'll bring on in just a few minutes. But if you're watching us on Behance, which is probably the only place you're watching us because it's the only place we're streaming currently, definitely drop your name in the chat. Tell us where you're joining from and what you're looking forward to about this episode. And Caity, I know we had some technical difficulties here.
We sure did.
Just the nature of a Wednesday in Techland. You want to tell us where you got that sweet background?
From Adobe stock.
Adobe stock. All
yeah,
right.
check it out. Stock.adobe.com. Get a sweet palm background in neon colors.
I like how it vibes with the whole purple theme that's going on.
I like how good of a salesperson I am.
Yeah, you really sold it. But Adobe Stock is a great place for backgrounds, whether you're doing a video call or not. And this is not an ad, just a handy resource to check out. I'm just really obsessed with the background and jealous that I don't have a sweet background set up today. My room.
I'm just making sure that we are actually live on Behance. Okay,
we are.
There. For some reason, it says we're quick prototypes, learn UX with Elise. But we got Laura, we got Fergie in the chat, so some people found us.
That's awesome. Yeah, and if you just found us on the live stream page, give Adobe XD a follow on Behance, and you'll get notifications the next time we go live. And today, speaking of Fergie, awesome, we've got Jill here too. Fergie is our guest today. So I will bring Fergie on and we'll say hello. Hey, Fergie.
Hey.
Hey. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Thanks for being our first guest and volunteering to join the show. So obviously we're talking design here. We have some various different topics. You've got a great career in design. Do you want to kick things off and just, I'm sure your face is familiar to people, but do you want to kick things off and tell us a little bit about who you are and where you're joining us from today?
Sure. Hey, everybody. If you don't know me, my name is Fergie. I'm a UX designer based out of London in the UK.
Awesome.
Yeah. What do you want to know? Where do you want me to start?
Well, let's see. So you're a designer based in the UK. What kind of design work do you do? I mean, design's a broad topic. Is there an area that you specialize in?
Yes. So I'm specifically a UX designer. I work primarily on mobile apps for iOS and Android, both platforms. But I do also create websites or internal software platforms for companies as well. So basically all digital kind of platforms.
How many devices do you have laying around? Like Android, iPhone. Yeah, right.
Too many to count. I don't know the last time I last counted. At least
a lot of UX designers I know have 7 cell phones, just in drawers that don't even work anymore. But yeah.
Gosh, I think I have 3 old phones in a drawer. I have 3 tablets. My current phone. I have my laptop, my work laptop. Too many.
Yeah. Very nice.
What do you find the maybe easiest or your favorite device or platform to design for is?
Because Apple's watching. No, I'm kidding. They're not that popular yet.
I'm not I wouldn't say I'm a fan of one platform over the other. My personal phone is an Android phone because the camera is far superior. Sorry, iPhone owners.
Wow.
But I like to design apps that don't look like the Android, the Google kit or the iOS kit. I don't think they have to. I don't think they always need to. I think it's a lot nicer when brands can create their own kits, and that's actually what I help a lot of business and companies do.
What do you think? So that's an interesting topic. I've spent a little bit of time in mobile design. And I know there's some pretty big differences, or at least there has been, in the design systems between iOS and Material. Is there, I'll simplify. What's the biggest challenge when trying to kind of implement your own design language across iOS and Material?
They do have some little nuanced differences. So certain components will work in different ways and have different interactions or different behaviors. So that's always something to cater for and be aware of, especially even if you're using the native kits. You know, they'll have different components, you know, so material design will have something that the iOS kit doesn't have, and vice versa. So it's just good to be really familiar with them, you know, get to know everything that's in there, know your options, know what is comparable, know what you can substitute in and out. Yeah, just takes time, but you can learn it.
Yeah.
Do you have a question, Caity?
Well, I mean, I kind of want to talk about, we were talking, you know, like last week a bit about your background and how you came into the UX world. So I'd love if you wanted to maybe share that story with everyone listening, how you got started in UX. You've been in it in over like 10 years, I think you said. So just love to kind of talk about your journey a bit and how you got to where you are today.
Sure. Well, I hope everybody is sitting comfortably. This is a long story.
Grab your wine or coffee. I mean, coffee.
Get your preferred beverage, folks. Yeah, so I actually started getting into, well, I got into UX before it was really a known term, a known field, industry, and all of that. But actually before then, I was very much into kind of tech, IT, design, art, all of that at school. So I went to university and did a degree in graphic and digital design. And it was quite a broad course. And they literally taught us every different type of discipline, so that as you progress through the 3 years of the degree, you could kind of specialize in a certain direction, take more classes to do with one than another, for example. That is where I built the most respect for animators, filmmakers, because that stuff is such hard work. Yeah, After Effects used to kill my cheap student laptop.
Oh yeah, yeah. That was always my least favorite homework, was the video and animation.
Yeah, I was not
such a learning curve for me personally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And from that, you know, the iPhone had kind of come out and that sort of time, and you know, there's this concept of apps, and I was like, oh, you know what, this is kind of cool. I could see this catching on, you know, phones were going all touchscreen and everything. Totally giving away my age, never mind. But we used to have buttons on phones, kids. So everything was going touchscreen. I just thought, you know what, I think this is going to take off. Apple is such a big brand and a big company, you know, and this was before they were really, you know, had that kind of like resurgence of followers. I'm going to go in that direction, and started experimenting with UX design before I knew that's what it was called, and creating this virtual tours app for one of the art galleries in London as like one of my projects.
Oh, very cool.
And that is kind of where I was like, yeah, I like this. And I liked doing web design because I could draw it and sketch it out either on paper or Photoshop. I used to slice up Photoshop documents and do the whole export image HTML, put it into Dreamweaver.
Oh yeah.
Put that into a, you know, file, upload to a server. So I started out when it really wasn't easy.
Yeah.
And was just quite lucky. After graduation, I applied for loads of jobs and got some interviews. One took me on, and kind of all went from there. So I've worked mostly in technology. It's kind of the industry I've always been in.
Yeah.
UX design kind of makes sense. And I've been in consulting like I am right now. I've been in agency. I've been in-house in investment banking, of all things. But have worked across so many different sectors, like obviously finance, agriculture, pharmaceuticals, e-commerce, pretty much everything. It's been a nice adventure so far.
What's like home for you? Is it is it the consulting world? Is it, you know, the tech space? Where are you happiest creating UX or delivering UX, I guess?
I would say I like the consulting business structure, you know, kind of always having somebody different to go and work with and work for. I think I've worked most in the fintech space. So I've done a lot of mobile banking apps and platforms. More recently, like a crypto bank I've worked for, which has been really exciting. Yeah, that's my like really comfortable spot because I just have so much knowledge in it now that I've built up. But at the same time, with the nature of consulting, when you finish one client engagement and you're sent off to the next one, you have to quickly like learn and absorb everything like a sponge. And actually, I find that quite an interesting challenge.
And I think there's a kind of a two sides to that too. And you've been in-house as well. My background is almost entirely in-house in a product design team on a singular product. I know Caity has a lot more agency background.
Actually, none.
And with none, right?
Yeah, in-house.
So we're both in-house backgrounds, but you've done a little bit of both. And I know agency, you get that ability to learn by jumping between different projects. And once you finish one, you can move on to a new project. And in-house, you're often working on the same thing over a period of years, potentially, on a singular product. What's kind of the key difference other than that? Like, you're getting learning opportunities with agency. What was the biggest advantage to working in-house?
The biggest advantage being in-house. Ooh.
Or is agency better from your experience?
I mean, from my personal taste, for me personally, not being in-house has been like my superpower because I've seen how things work in so many different environments. I've seen so many teams and worked with so many teams that I have so much experience to draw from. When I go to the next client, I can take everything I've learned from like the 100 clients before them of, okay, well, I've seen this scenario and this setup and this structure, and these are all the things that have failed before for these reasons. So let's not do any of those. We don't need to test. Yeah. I know that I've seen them fail. But I think actually an advantage of being in-house is having that consistency. If that's something that you really like, you have that consistency, you have the branding that you have to work with, how things are meant to look, the process with how things work when you're in a team, the team, you can build those relationships to be a lot stronger and a lot more meaningful, I think, when you're in-house. It's less of a guessing game sometimes, I would say.
Yeah, I think you have more time to understand things. You probably see a lot more iterations on the product as well. And you kind of have that history of decision making as well to trace back, whereas probably in an agency or where you're changing over products, you kind of have that goal, you're in there. Maybe you have a contract to continue and iterate with it. I find you see more design cycles within product. But to your point about having a lot of background on different projects, I've found that too as I've moved jobs. Pretty much every job I've been in has been within a different industry space. So you see some threads that are similar, but then you pick up on things in one industry that become really valuable learnings for another one. I went from education technology into industrial manufacturing and robotics, and they're totally different. But some of the things I learned from how teachers behave kind of fed into how machines behave in manufacturing in some odd way. So I think it points to an interesting, I guess, lesson or advice for people who are just starting their careers. Like, it's okay to jump between industries or change jobs, because you can actually almost learn faster doing that.
Like having some serious FOMO right now because you both have done, been so many different places. So I'm like, dang, I wish I wouldn't give up my experience in design for what, at all, but it would have been kind of nice to kind of jump around to the agencies, to the consulting, to try all these different avenues. But I guess now I'm lucky I'm at Adobe and I get to talk to designers from all these different areas, like yourself, Fergie, and other teams. But yeah, I don't know. If you wish you could go back and do another thing, what would it be, I guess, I don't know, Fergie, you ever think of that?
That's a good question.
We're getting real deep.
So deep. If I wasn't doing this, what would I be doing? completely different world, different everything, but I am absolutely fascinated with the ocean. And if I had to do life over just to try again for fun, I might go into like marine biology or something like that. Absolutely. I just think it is fascinating. Like we don't know like 80% or 90% or whatever of what's down there.
Oh my gosh, so true. I know. My whole IG feed is just like Nat Geo and like it's like animals and What about you, Matt? You got any other?
Mine would probably be somewhat similar. I've always been immersed in the tech world, but if I left tech and design, it would probably be something in parks or conservation, like a park ranger, probably.
Nice. Also, Fergie, no, I mean, Fergie talks about she making some of her own app ideas come to life. Maybe we should all do one with this love of nature and marine biology. I think.
I've definitely seen that come through in the templates and UI kits I've created. They all seem to be outdoors and adventure based. So I need to break myself away from that. Maybe explore the crypto banking or finance. That's a cool area. I was going to come back to Fergie in the world of the ocean. I've watched a lot of the National Geographic videos and photographers. Photography is a big passion of mine. What is your favorite fish or aquatic being?
Love this.
We're getting a little bit away from design.
We're getting deep in the water here.
We want to learn about Fergie here.
After we talk about our favorite critters.
And it's like, I feel like it's probably like quite a typical answer, but I love all the really beautiful tropical fish that you find in the coral reefs. I think angelfish might be one of my favorites. Don't know why. I've seen them a lot when I've done like scuba diving and things. I'd love to be able to learn, and it's on the to-do list, learn to like free dive and go down with like a GoPro or a camera or something. Like just see what I find, see what I can see.
Make sure you get certified, because I did that once and I both double your infections right away. Worth it.
That makes me think of a really cool design exercise though.
There we go, bring it back.
Partially inspired by this cool background Caity's sporting, but the fish in the coral reef are very colorful, and would probably be a really great inspiration for color systems or brand systems as well. I can imagine like if you went diving and just pulled out the Adobe Capture app and got the color palettes from those fish, I'm sure you could come up with some really cool design styles from in the ocean.
That would be really cool.
Getting some good ideas here today that we should jot down.
We should jot them down.
I do want to, Adobe stock team actually did a really cool campaign initiative with the Ocean Agency about like coral reefs and
I was just trying to look that one up.
So something cool to check out. I can put a link in the chat, or maybe if one of our awesome friends in the chat want to provide that. Okay, but on the topic of like app ideas, Fergie, I know you kind of have some of your own app ideas. Some you don't want to share because, you know, you're going to be a famous app designer. You already are. But there was one I thought you were kind of talking about, or you were open to. You did it on a Behance challenge, maybe.
Yes, What was that? There was an Adobe live stream, I think just before Christmas, or just before that one. There was a few at the same time. But I was doing this kind of holistic well-being app design, and was looking for different ideas of features that could go in there, and came up with this idea of what if I could create an app. And I think I've worked out how to do it, so I'll probably live stream when I do it.
Put your GoFundMe in the chat.
I'm gonna name TBC, but it's basically, at the moment I'm calling it Vent Mail. So imagine you've had a really frustrating interaction at work with a colleague or a meeting, or someone has sent a reply and you're like, oh, you know, one of those things, and you want to type out that reply, you want to vent, you want to just get it all out, you want to tell so-and-so how they've been so silly, or you want to tell off somebody because they keep stealing your lunch from the fridge, whatever it might be. And you can type this email, you can put the address in and everything, and like hit send, get the little sound effect, but it's not actually sending anywhere. It's just like disappearing, and you can be like,
Relief.
Whew, take a breath. Got it out
Love
my
it.
system. Now I can very politely and politically correctly reply, even though it's not how nice I want to be. We all
I
have
love
those
it.
moments.
And vent mail, is that what you're thinking of calling it?
Vent mail, yeah.
That's a great name.
That, or
I feel like Caity
that's
could have
my
used
lunch.
that just as we started this stream, when the streaming
my
service
tech
kicked her
setup.
off promptly
So this thing,
5 minutes before. Yeah. So that
who
would have
needs
been
a
handy.
microphone? Yeah. Yeah. I love this idea. I think it's so fun. Like, I'll do something similar where I'll just like respond and not put anyone in the, to line and just, get it out. But that doesn't really happen here at Adobe because it's a great place to work. But definitely been there with friends and family. And I hope you deliver it. It would be great. I would definitely download that app in a heartbeat.
It is one of my goals for the next few months. So
yeah,
let's go back to the process of how you created that. I mean, you have the idea. I assume the idea probably came from a certain context. You maybe experienced that problem in situation and then came up with the idea. But what was your idea once you had the idea? What was your process in actually going out and designing that?
Yeah,
since this is a design live stream.
Not our love of oceans live stream. Okay, yeah. That's next episode.
Okay.
Yeah, so the idea kind of, like I say, it came up in a past live stream. So I noted it down because I thought, you know what, that would be really cool to explore. And so many people in chat were like, yeah, do it. But we just like didn't have time then. So how I've kind of started drafting it, but I need to like put some actual design love into it, is of course in XD, everybody's favorite tool. My favorite, obviously. Hashtag not sponsored.
Hashtag there's not a pillow in your background.
Right.
I love it.
No, I'm an ambassador. You all know I'm an ambassador. But that's because I love the product, not the other way around. Been with XD since day one. So I will start off with an idea. I might quickly like sketch something on paper if I just want to get a rough idea down, if I'm, in between calls or something like that. But I'll go in, start to kind of wireframe it, like really just kind of quick and messy, get some ideas down. I won't worry about being like pixel perfect or getting everything like perfectly aligned or what colors I'm using. I'm literally putting like boxes on the screen, throwing maybe some icons in at most. And then once I've got an idea of, okay, these are the screens I'm going to have, this is how it all links together. All right, I think it's going to work. Then I'll start to flesh out more of the detail and start actually going into what do I specifically want this to look like. Do I want to use one of the UI kits available? Do I want it to be designed so that it matches the platform that it's going to be on? So do I want it to look like Apple Mail? Do I want it to look like Gmail or Android's native email app? That's something I'll have to work out, because depending, then there's 2 versions. Or do I want it to be platform agnostic and create my own look and feel for it? Is it going to be my hot pink Fergie brand? Is it going to be, what is it going to be like? And I'll start to really go into the detail of kind of working out how am I going to get this to work? What things do I need on the screen? Do I want to, how much do I want to make it look like the existing apps versus having something that makes it more identifiable? And then from there, it's kind of easy, because you think making an app, oh, that's super duper hard. And yes, it is. It takes obviously a lot of skill and knowledge and coding and all the rest of it. But I'm a UX designer. I don't know how to code. I can't code native apps, that's for sure. A couple of websites I could handle, but definitely not native apps.
Yeah.
So I actually use one of the XD plugins called Bravo Studio. And to me, this is like one of the most fantastic no-code tools I've come across and used. And I've used it a lot. Like, I've played around with it a lot, testing it out, which is why I'm quite confident that I can actually go and build this. And it will basically take what I've got in XD And everybody knows that I am team name your layers. Okay, so if you're not team name your layers, I don't want to hear about it in the chat. But it's important because when you want to use this plugin, you have to put these little tags, and they're in like square brackets. You have to put these little tags on the layer name, depending on what this thing is. So I have to tell Bravo that all my group, well, that's a container, you know, like a div, if you're doing like website code, for example. I have to tell it, this is a button that has an action, so that when I go into the Bravo platform to start kind of tying some things together, I can then tie that button to the action command that I want it to perform, but without code. It's literally
so cool.
really, really, really quick. And you could make an app in a day if it was something like that.
That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, like
powerful.
I hadn't heard of that one until we were chatting. So, because that was going to be my question, you know, like I could probably handle the design part. I would probably need someone like you with UX experience to really help me out with the flow and the experience. But yeah, then when it comes to development, like, whew, like I just get so intimidated. And like, I'm just like, okay, I'm just going to get a lot of money together to pay someone, because I totally think everyone deserves all the money in the world for what they do, especially developers. They're great. So yeah, super excited to hear about this plugin and to actually make something happen. Because you said you can then just take it onto the App Store from there if it's...
Yeah, basically, once you've done everything in XD and you put your tags in, you tell it, okay, sync to Bravo, and then you open up Bravo. It's just in the browser. It's not an application or anything like that. It's all web-based. You can go in, do what you need to do. You can connect to APIs and external data sources if you want. You know, whatever you fancy. And then once it's all done, you can just say, you know, you do a couple of things that are specific to each of the app stores, app markets. And then it just, they do it for you. It really is like magic to me.
Automagical. It's a new phrase
Love
I've been
that.
hearing. Yeah, right. All right, everyone, go home, make your own apps. Go download the Bravo plugin. That's so great.
And share it.
Yeah.
We want to see it.
Sure.
Hashtag Adobe XD.
Now, I know we have some questions in the chat, Matt. Do you want to go into those, or do we want to talk a bit about, I wanted to get into your mentoring, Fergie, because I think it's so important.
Yeah.
It's so great. So
I think this could be a good segue. There's one question here. We didn't prompt you for this, Fergie, but we're asking the audience for questions now. And we have one from Jill. How important do you think it is for designers to understand business strategy when designing a project?
Good one, Jill.
I think it's quite important to understand the wider business, because if you don't understand what you're designing for, like what is the business goal, what's the use case, you know, how can you really design for it? So I think, as I was talking about earlier, when I'm jumping kind of from client to client in any, you know, monthly period, I have to soak up all that information in the first week. Otherwise, what I do after that is just going to take me so much longer to get to that right iteration and to get to the right thing. Like understanding the business and whatever goals and strategy that they have, I do think is important as a more, excuse the phrase, but like to be more like a well-rounded designer, because you're not just there to make pretty screens, really. You know, it's yes, it'll look nice and be functional, but you know, it's coming from a business that has it to, I don't know, serve customers or generate revenue, whatever it might be, and it's important to know.
It kind of creates constraints for the design, right? Like if you don't have those guardrails, it's a wide open project, and some projects are like that. It's more of a creative expression, but a lot of UX projects end up being very focused, and there's business requirements. I mean, there's user needs. There's a whole lot of those constraints that go into it. But I think design, and maybe I'd like to hear your opinion on this in terms of business goals and needs can influence the design piece, but design can also influence the business direction too, right? And I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I'd love to hear your opinion on that, on how design and kind of the business strategy kind of work together from a UX perspective.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely does work together. I mean, that's kind of where the role of a product owner comes into play. You know, they have that role and that responsibility responsibility for making sure that whatever the business is asking for is what we're as a team producing. So they might ask for something and have a really single focus of something they want to achieve. Maybe it's, I don't know, selling one single product. That's the thing they sell. I don't know. They might not think about how you could then upsell and do add-ons where, for example, a client I was working with last year, this is kind of niche, so bear with me, but it's all related to Caribbean carnivals. So I don't know, in whichever cities you might be in, there's like a kind of Caribbean carnival. We have one in London called Notting Hill. And this company basically builds the online platform for which the different bands in the carnival sell and distribute the fancy, amazing costumes and service. And that's the aim of the platform. And we were having discussions. I said, well, you've said you want to further this and not only help them sell the costumes, you want to be a platform they can use more than just that once a year for that one event. Or how about you help them sell tickets to their events, tickets to their concerts, merchandise that they might have, things like that. So me understanding their goal of this is what they want to do, but to sell to, so many to kind of generate the revenue that is needed. Well, actually, there's other opportunities that I just thought of from kind of being in that world a little bit.
And I mean, as the UX designer, you know the user really well and the audience well. So that can really help you identify those opportunities too. I think some of the best products really have a good grasp on that design and business strategy, really working well together. Thanks for sharing that, Fergie. No, so I'll do another call out live here. Just if you do have questions for Fergie, we'll loop back to those at the end. So drop those in the chat. We'll take a look. But I know you're a big mentor, and I'll maybe pass this over to you, Caitlin. And you're an XD ambassador. There are a number of ambassadors right now in the chat. So thanks to Laura for sharing all the links in chat right now. And sorry for the garbage truck going by my window. Maybe, do you want to tell us a little bit about your mentorship? And actually, I'll pass it over to Katie if you want to set up the question.
No, I think you set it up well. Let's just hear about it. Yeah.
Okay.
Tell us what you do on that side of things.
So I mentor on a few platforms like Superpeer, primarily ADP List. That's kind of the biggest one that I'm on at the moment. Is where I have most of my mentees contacting me from. And I mentor for every Thursday evening. I have like 3 hours blocked in my calendar where I don't go to the gym, I don't go out. Those 3 hours are dedicated for mentee time. So people can book in with me, whether it's to have a chat and understand direction, whether it's they're wanting to change career and come into UX, but UX is such a broad space. It's not just design, even though we've mainly spoken about design. There's also the research, there's also testing, there's what's the difference between UX, UI, and product? It's all these kind of questions that can come up to somebody who's a career changer or even just new to the industry. Whether it's portfolio reviews, interview practice, or prep, or just generally wanting to bounce ideas off of another designer from a different place. Basically, that's kind of what I do over there, and people book in with me, and we have really great conversations. But the reason I started to do that is I think mentoring is really important, and it's something that I'm on ADP list for specifically because it's free. It's not something that is charging for. It's not something I expect to charge for, in the near future or anything like that. I'm in a position where I can give up my time. Because like I said earlier, when I first started out in the industry, it wasn't really that well known. People kind of tried, the UX title didn't really exist. I don't even know what my first job title was, like web designer or something like that. It was it was UX, but it wasn't called that. It was, it was all HCI and everything else.
Yeah.
And my first position was in quite a small agency, and I was their only designer. So I didn't have a senior designer to help show me the direction, help me kind of carve my path, know like what skills to build up, because I'm fresh out of university.
Like what opportunities there are. Yeah.
exactly. You don't know everything when you're a junior just starting out. And I think it's really natural to worry and stress about that, but you don't need to know everything. Like it's okay when you're junior.
Time.
Yeah, to come in not knowing everything. But knowing that you're not knowing knowing that you don't know everything is the important part of that.
Yeah.
So I didn't really have somebody to speak to. There weren't really events and that sort of stuff or meetups, so it was really hard to learn as I was coming into the field. It was trying to buy as many books as I could, but even then, it was very web design specific. There wasn't lots around mobile app design. It was just, as much online research and reading and papers and things like that I could get my hands on. But you don't even know what you're searching for when you're searching for it. So I missed out. So I don't want others to have that feeling.
Yeah,
basically.
wow. That's incredible, and thank you for doing that, because you were a bit of a self-taught, or you had to really find things out and kind of seek it out yourself and work triple hard to get to where you are, and it's definitely paid off. What do you get out of mentoring? Is there something that's like, it just must be so special, and I hope can encourage other people to do this similar path as well, to kind of give back. What is something that keeps you doing it in a crazy busy world that we all live in, and our schedules and lives?
I think there can be so much like gatekeeping in the design community and UX, especially because it's having this like boom and being so popular the past few years. Everybody suddenly wants to be like really secretive and not tell you how you did something or how you made something, or I don't know, whatever it might be. People just want to keep everything to themselves, and I don't believe in that kind of behavior and culture. I think it's important to share and help anybody, regardless of what level they might be at or stage. I think the more designers we have, great. I'm trying to build teams all the time for my clients, and hiring designers can be quite difficult, because even though there's this huge rush for people wanting to be designers, there's kind of, you start to see gaps where everybody applying for a role might be quite junior, and actually you need somebody with some experience to apply. But there seems to be, because of, I think it's because of this gatekeeping thing for a few years, that it's either people have no experience, a small bit, like a few years of experience, or loads of experience. There's no, at least from when I've been hiring, like it's harder to find midweight designers. And I don't know, if I can help people, then I'm going to help people. And at the end of the mentoring calls, I'll always say, was this helpful at all, or did I just ramble on at you for 30 minutes? And they're like, no, great, because I don't know, I'm just saying what I think, but it's not gospel.
Love it. That's awesome. Matt, do we have any questions in the chat?
No questions in the chat, but I have a question going back to your point on no matter what level they're at. So oftentimes we think of mentoring as I'm trying to get into an industry, I'm trying to start my career. And often that might reveal itself as, junior designers should get mentors. But should anyone get mentors? What are your thoughts on levels and mentoring throughout your career?
I think everybody should have a mentor, regardless of where you're at. I am looking at myself for a new mentor, because we're always learning. I don't think there's ever going to be a time where there's nothing left to learn, because especially in the space that we're in with UX design and technology, things do change really fast, really quickly. There's this whole XR world now with extended reality, with virtual reality and augmented reality, and I find that absolutely fascinating. And I'm like, right, I need to learn this. I know nothing. Okay, I can watch some videos, I can read some things, but I'd gain a lot more and be way more engaged with having a conversation with somebody in that space, and talk to them about, hey, you've been doing this for so many years. How did you get into it? How do you find working in it? Like, tell me your experiences. I think that can sometimes be a lot more valuable and definitely more interesting than just reading up on some theory.
Yeah, for sure.
I agree. And that brings me to another question. Sites like ADP List are great for getting started and finding a mentor. And I'm on there as well. Not nearly as much or as dedicated as Fergie is, but I'm working on it. But for reaching out to people in the industry, say you're in one industry and you're trying to get into another one or learn about another one, a lot of the questions I get is, how do I reach out? Like, how do I approach people? Do you have any tips on connecting with people in the community who you want to talk to?
Yes. A huge no is don't just say, hi, I'm looking for a mentor, will you be my mentor? Because that it's so broad and so vague. I would connect with people who are in a field or industry that you aspire to be into or move into. Be really specific with what you're looking in a mentor for. So, for example, you might want to better understand design leadership. What does it mean to be a design manager? How can you move from maybe being a senior designer to being a design manager? So it's a little bit more specific than just be my mentor. You know, you're looking for, and that also helps you narrow down who you approach, who you send this message to. You could reach out to people on, you know, there's obviously the mentoring platforms, but you could reach out to people on LinkedIn. I've had messages from people for all kinds of things on LinkedIn, whether it's to be a mentor, whether it's to help with portfolios, whether it's to be a UX research participant. I mean, we have everything at our fingertips with the internet. You can have a mentor from the other side of the globe. It's, you know, it's pretty cool.
What are your biggest no-nos? And this might be the last question here as we wrap up.
We got a few.
But in terms of reaching out on LinkedIn, I know there's several different approaches that people may take on LinkedIn. But what's the best way to kind of establish a connection, a genuine connection, and get a response? Or what, maybe the flip side of that question is, what should you just definitely not do in terms of connecting with people on LinkedIn?
I would avoid sending a generic copy-paste message. It's people people can be very cautious about who they allow into their network, because obviously that then allows you to contact people further. And most of the people on my network I know and have worked with. So you don't want somebody who's connected to you to then be like bothering them, and they ask you like, who's this person that you're connected to that is harassing my inbox and pinging me all the time? I would say make it quite a personable message. Don't make it too long. You know, people are not here to read an essay. Keep it as short and precise as you can, but make it personable. You know, reach out to somebody and say, hey, Matt, I see you work at Adobe and this is your role, and I'm really interested in that space for these reasons. I was looking for a mentor. I don't suppose you could spare me 1 hour a month just to have a chat about this and help me find my direction of how I could move into that space.
Love, copy and paste that. That is perfect. I love that too. And I think even just doing a little research. So if it is like someone wants to mentor you, Matt, it's like they could go look at all the Adobe blog posts you've written, or go do some research on things that you've published or done on the XD team. Be like, point out some of the work they've done that you've really liked or responded to, and that could be helpful.
Yeah, showing an actual interest or knowledge in someone can go a long way.
Yeah.
And also adding value, right? A lot of people I've found in junior roles, and even myself as I was getting started, I think like, what value do I have to provide to this person in a senior role? But sometimes even just having a discussion, sharing whatever knowledge you have, and asking questions can be really valuable too. So over time, you'll kind of ask questions, learn answers, and then those can become valuable for whoever you're talking to, and you'll slowly build up a little bit of knowledge. But the hardest step is usually just asking. And I think Fergie just gave us some great advice on how to do that. So that's probably a great way to kind of leave things off. So
that's the replay.
Yeah. So the replay will be here on Behance shortly after we end up. But I just want to say thank you, Fergie, for joining us. And I believe you have another episode shortly after this. You're on Meet the Makers over on Adobe XD's LinkedIn and Facebook.
Yeah.
So definitely check that out. And what will you be talking about on Meet the Makers, Fergie?
So that one is a bit more of a practical kind of workshop style, going through cross-app workflows between Photoshop and XD.
That's
Well,
awesome.
I'm gonna put a link in the chat.
Thanks,
Amazing.
Caity.
Yeah.
And I know Laura's been adding a bunch of links here. So we'll just wrap up and I'll point to some of those. If you are looking for mentorship, obviously ADP List is great. We also have an XD Discord channel. You can find that link in the chat. And all of our XD ambassadors are in there, along with some other mentors that can help you answer XD questions, maybe even share some career advice like we heard from Fergie today. And then if you're looking for XD tutorials, we can post a link in there too to the Learn Hub. But if you're not following us yet on Behance, all of this information will be able to be found on Behance along with upcoming live streams. A few tongue twisters here. So give us a follow on Behance at behance.net/AdobeXD, and you'll get notifications when we go live next. So with that, any final questions, comments, Caity?
Well, in 2 weeks, so we'll be back here. So Matt and I are doing this every other Wednesday on Behance, and the next episode will feature Sam Anderson. He is on the voice design team here at Adobe. So he will actually be in the studio with me. He's brilliant. Can't wait to get him in here to chat. And then 2 weeks after that, we have Dr. X from Amazon. He's a computer scientist from Amazon. He's going to be talking about what keeps him inspired and what a computer scientist does at Amazon. So that'll be really exciting, and hope you all can join us.
Yes, thanks everyone, and thanks Fergie.
Thanks, Fergie.
Thanks
And
for
we'll see
having
you
me.
next time.
Anytime, come back.
Bye everyone.
Bye.